This is week 18 of Project Wayne, which is trying to become a modern day polymath similar to Bruce Wayne or Batman. So this video is going to be pretty short. There's not a whole lot of changes since last week. I'm going to be going over some changes in how I manage time, because when you boil it down, the project is all really based on time management, how extreme you can time manage in order to pursue all these different diverse goals in one lifetime. And then I'll go over some updates, some current projects, and that'll be it. So it should be pretty short. So the changes on how I think of time, what I've started doing is I've already been using Google Calendar. That's a really easy way to more productively use your time and track where your time is going. Something that I just started doing is setting specific meal times. So right now I have 5 of them. And what this does is this just sets specific times where I have to be eating. So a lot of times when I'm working on a project, I'll get really enveloped in it and I'll forget to eat, and then that'll lead to me losing weight. And I'm trying to bulk back up to 200. I think I'm around 185, maybe 190 right now, and I usually sit around 200. But I'll get really involved in working on a project or studying or something, and then I'll forget to eat. So that's why I have to set specific times for me to stop and actually remember to eat. And then any other time in my calendar, if I don't have it allotted to do a specific task, it's just blank space. So in between some of the meals, I just have 2.5 hours of just blank space on my Google Calendar. And instead of spending the time every night to try and think of what I'm going to do specifically during that time, I just leave it blank. And as long as I'm working on some sort of work, that's fine. Just the only thing I do is I set a backstop. So a time when I know I'm going to stop. So for example, if I'm going to be filming this, I'll give myself 20 minutes to do it. So I don't spend too long on trying to make the video. This is my attempt to circumvent Parkinson's law, in which it said that a task will expand to fill the time within it. One really good example of this is when I was working 2 jobs for 80 hours a week. I would come home and I would do this like pit stop where I would get home at around 8:30ish, and then by 11 I'd have to be out the door because I'd have to be heading to my other job. And in that time, I was able to do my marathon training, sleep for maybe an hour, take a shower, do my weight training, do my world record pull-ups training, and then do any kind of business work that I needed to. But now that I have more time at home, not now, I'll go into that in further detail a little bit later. But when I first started having a lot more time at home, those 40 more hours that I wasn't working, a lot of my time went to waste, and it would take me 8 hours to do the same thing I was able to do in 4 hours before. So just even though I don't have every single specific thing in my day planned out, I have 70% of it planned out, and that extra 30% is just whatever I feel like doing then. So maybe I'll feel like working on coding, and I'll say, okay, I'll code for about an hour, and then I'll switch to this other project. It just gives me a backstop for when to finish that task by. So something else I wanted to talk about was having issues getting up on time. So a couple days ago, my schedule was to go to sleep at 9 a.m., get home at 8:30, and then do everything I needed to do, be ready to go to sleep by 9, and then be up working again at 1 a.m. Well, I was having trouble going to sleep that early for me. So what I've changed it to now is I go to sleep at 10:15 a.m. and then this extra hour or so gives me time to fit my first workout of the day in, and this gives me more time to recover from my first workout to my second workout. So my first workout will usually be something like my marathon training, so I'll do my run in the morning, and then maybe I'll hit abs or some sort of like easy workout that doesn't take too long, and in the afternoon I do my heavy duty training, which is like my weights workout. So it gives me more time to recover between the two. And a lot of the time before I had switched my schedule to this, I would just lie on my bed for another hour, in which I spend working out, but I would just pretty much waste that hour trying to go to sleep. So this kind of fits better with my sleep schedule. Um, I really like the idea of polyphasic sleeping, in where you're able to sleep in multiple different periods rather than monophasic sleep, where you sleep in one maybe 8 hour block. And if you're able to condense the 8 hours of sleep into maybe 4 hours, you're able to live pretty much more than one lifetime. You're able to get more work done. So I'm constantly changing everything. If you see other videos on my channel from the beginning, I tried and failed to adapt to the everyman schedule, so I'm trying that again, but I'm just making updates and adjusting to how my body changes and reacts to it. So it's a constant process of updating it. Um, so it takes some time after getting home to fall asleep. So I push my core sleep back, and then another critical thing I've started thinking about is thinking about time in like units of measure of 15 minutes rather than hour blocks. So when you think of how much time's in a day, most people say there's 24 hours, right? They're not going to say there's this many 15-minute periods. But that's what I'm trying to do now, because I feel like when I finish a task and I look at the clock and it's like an off time, like 1:37. I'm like, okay, well, I might as well just mess around until like 2, and then at 2 I'll start doing something. But if you think of time in terms of 15-minute periods, it puts more emphasis on that 15-minute period. Like, okay, what could I get done in that 15 minutes? Well, I could, check the website. I could check YouTube. I could fit 15 minutes of studying. Maybe that's not the best example, but maybe that's 15 minutes where I could set up my creatine or prepare a protein shake for later, or make my creatine drink, or knock a bunch of little tasks out of the way. So what I'm trying to do now is think of time in terms of 15-minute blocks. Um, Last night I was listening to an audiobook by an American businessman, and he gave a portion in his book where he talked about his day to day, and he's always taking important business calls. And within like a 45-minute period, he said you would take around 6 important business calls. So the thing that I took away from that is to keep calls short and precise. Make sure you're not wasting time in meetings, or in this case phone calls, and then to kind of think of time in smaller blocks rather than hours, because then when you finish a block at an off time, a task at an off time, it kind of makes you think you don't have enough time to finish another task or get into another task before the next hour starts. And I think that's really instrumental in capturing all that time I have after getting home and before going into my core sleep, that I'm able to actually get an entire workout in, because I'm able to think of it, I have 2 15-minute periods or 3 15-minute periods, instead of, I don't even have an hour, so I can't even do a workout, which isn't true. So some current projects, some updates. I've been studying a lot for the CPA exam. So my plan with that is right now it's looking like I might eventually get a job, a W-2 job in some sort of accounting role, hopefully real estate, because that's what I'm doing for a business. But if you're able to qualify as a real estate professional, which in the tax code, the IRS, it's over 750 hours and has to be more than 50% of your business, where you spend your time on a business. You're able to use your losses from real estate as active losses against your active income, so W-2 income. So whenever I look for a job, I'm always looking for, I'm not going to just take this job because it pays this amount. I'm looking for an alternative, like underground strategy that I can use. So for example, when I took the security guard job I have now, and the other job I had before, it's because the jobs that I have or the job I have now, is I don't really do a whole lot. I spend an hour doing a patrol, and then the other 7 hours I can just study. So I get paid to just sit in a chair and study for the CPA exam. So there's always like two strategies. So for me, getting a job in accounting, it's not because I really care a whole lot about accounting. It's so I can use that business knowledge, so I can get that CPA behind my name, so I have that credibility, and so I have more knowledge in, you know, finance, the language of business, that I'm able to become a more savvy businessman in the future. So with getting a job in accounting, I need to get a year of experience to get the CPA certification. Um, right now, it looks like I'm going to pass all the CPA exams before I even get the year of experience. So that's what's going to be holding me up. So I'll be using that as a W-2 job to be able to pretty much have no taxes on that income while I'm working as a real estate professional. And in terms of that, I have my real estate exam scheduled for about a month out. So I'm going to be starting to study up on that as well. But like in all the jobs I go for and everything, mostly jobs, there's always some sort of second strategy besides just getting a paycheck. It's like I'm getting a paycheck, plus I'm also hitting the year of experience for the CPA exam, plus I'm getting experience for something that I'm later going to use for my own business. So it's like I'm having someone train me to start my own business and pay me to train me. And then I'm also picking this specific job because I'm able to offset the taxes from that job with this other job and combine the passive or active losses. So that's how I think of jobs at the moment. So world record in pull-ups. Last week I talked about how I started training based on feel rather than setting a hard goal. So I'm gonna just arbitrarily do 5 workouts a week for the world record training. I'm still going off of feel, but I feel like last week I pulled it back a little bit too much, and I only trained once the entire week for it. And I think I was kind of expecting my body to recover on its own passively, and I can't really be depending on that. So what I need to do is spend a lot more time on active recovery. So the biggest thing for me is using my Theragun. I'll have a link down so you can see what it is. It's a massage gun that I use on my back that helps get out all the knots or any leftover lactic acid that's still in there, and it allows me to recover faster so I can get more workouts in. So I went from training too much to training to too little, so now I have to use active recovery to get into that sweet spot, so where I'm hitting about 2 to 3 workouts per week. Last week the workout I did, I think it was around 30 minutes, so I still have to kind of figure out what the figure is, but I want to be within a certain amount of standard deviation of my normal time. Right now, a world record pace is about 14 minutes, 14 minutes and 41 seconds to complete 100 pull-ups, and my fastest time right now is 20 minutes. So I'm closing in on it, but I still have a lot more work to do. And keep in mind, I have to keep up that 14, almost 15-minute pace for 24 hours. Right now, I'm only doing it for 100 pull-ups. When I'm probably ready for the pull-up world record to be contender, it'll probably be around 10,000 pull-ups in 24 hours, because right now it's at about 9,100, I think. So just using my Theragun for more active recovery and trying to hit a goal of 2 to 3 workouts per week rather than 1 or on the high end 5. The next project, martial arts. I eventually want to incorporate martial arts into the program. It's obviously a big part of Batman and Bruce Wayne's prowess, their fighting ability. So I'm going to be gone starting in September, late September, for anywhere from 5 to 9 months. But once I return, I'm going to be leaning really heavily into that. But before I leave in September and before I return, I'm going to ease my way into it by starting to trick, which is like being able to do backflips and front flips, basically being able to move your body, being in control of your body, in a way that it will translate into martial arts later, and it's something that wrestlers are pretty good at. So right now, I'm not able to train martial arts, but tricking is something I can get into, and I can start working on myself. The first thing I'm probably gonna try and do is a backflip. I just need to find like a cushion so I can, not break my neck. Um, the last thing is audiobooks. I've been kind of inconsistent with this, though in the past 2 days I have been getting better at it. Again, that's because I'm not working my other second job where I would just stand around all day, and that's where I would get most of my daily audiobook done. So, what I'm trying to do now is identify gaps in my day where I'm not really doing anything with my ears, where I'm just sitting around, maybe on my commute into work, where I could be listening to an audiobook. Um, when I'm trying to drift off to sleep, I'll use Libby, where it has a function where you can set like 15 minutes for the audiobook to play, and then you fall asleep within that period, and then it stops the audiobook at 15 minutes, so it doesn't play the entire audiobook while you're asleep. So I'm trying to work it in that way as well. I'm trying to get to the point where I can do it on my runs, but right now uh, I'm not at that level because I really hate running still. But yeah, I'm just trying to identify times in my day in which maybe I'm using my hands, but I'm not using my ears, and I can be doing two things at once. So yeah, so that's pretty much it for this week. A shorter video than usual, and then next week's probably going to be short as well, just because this video is coming out 2 days late. But I hope you found anything from this video helpful. I think that 15-minute thing, thinking of periods of time in the day of blocks of 15 minutes rather than hour blocks, is really helpful. I assume this is the same concept that the book The 12-Week Year talks about. I still haven't been able to read it. Someone did send me a PDF copy, so if you're watching this, thank you for that. But it's too much of a commitment to be able to sit down and read that whole document for about maybe 8 hours. It'll take me to read it when I can listen to it on an audiobook. So I still have two different holds on it from two different library systems, and I'm waiting for those to come in so I can listen to it in audiobook form. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week in week 19.